Aloha nerds, and welcome back to the Salawag's Gut Reaction, where I watch things and react from the gut. I just saw Eternals last night, and now I was late to the theater and I missed the first 10-15 minutes, but damn, what an entertaining movie. I gotta say, very well made. If you don't know what The Eternals is, this is the latest picture from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, led by hero producer Kevin Feige. In this film, we follow the Eternals, these supernatural beings who protect the Earth from these demons called something, because I forgot what the name was called, even though they said it 15 times, 15,000 times actually. And these Eternals have been living on Earth, and they're essentially protecting for thousands and thousands of years, but they have a very specific mission. They don't get involved with human conflicts. But what I like about this movie, mini spoiler, because it does tell their story from past to present, so you kind of can't escape that being part of the movie. It's in the trailer. What I like is so many times throughout this movie, these characters are tempted to get themselves involved in human conflicts because they care. They just are naturally empathetic toward these people, and they just can't help that they like these people. So you see them struggle with it as a group. Each one has a different way in which they struggle to not involve themselves and change the fate of these people because they have the power to do so. And I really enjoy that aspect of this movie. I loved Shang-Chi. I don't do reviews for a lot of new movies for a very important reason. One, you're hearing it from everybody else anyway. I'm just going to say what they're saying. And two, that again. So I don't want to be that repetitive voice, but I just wanted to celebrate this movie for how well it was made, really well shot, beautifully directed. Chloe Zhao, you know what? I feel like the studio hypercut your movie. I've heard there's negative reviews. I don't care about reviews anymore. I've learned that I always end up, it's always a 50-50. Am I going to agree with my favorite reviewer or not? I don't know. When I watch the movie, I'm just going to decide for myself. I don't watch trailers anymore. I really just saw some of the promotional campaign, which was the typical CrossFit versus progressive-ish. We're progressive. What a fantastic business model to be progressive. But I thought, really great characters, really great actors, great cast, great cinematography, great production design. From top to bottom, this was a really well put together movie. Not as much Salma Hayek or Angelina Jolie as I would have liked, but that's okay. What I like about the trailers that I did see is that it was never clear exactly who the main characters were supposed to be, and I enjoy watching a movie and being allowed to figure that out as the movie rolls out. That I enjoy a lot. So I gotta say, great professional package. The effects were really fantastic this time around. I think the art style and direction, and again the cinematography, all these elements come together to make this really effectively beautiful, artful superhero movie. Now, I'm not, although I do have some comic books, I'm not the biggest comic book fan, so I can't tell you whether this is accurate or not. I can just say, as a gut reaction, as an experience, this was an awesome time at the movies, and it was really kind of re-inspiring for me. I want to make movies, I want to make stuff, and as I was watching the movie, I felt myself kind of reawakened. I've kind of been in this sort of 4-year break from making anything video related. Ever since my short film 007, I Only Need One, it won some awards, but it was such a grueling, exhausting experience. I just needed a break after that. And it's been nice to have a break and sort of work retail and learn how to human in a completely normal, expected way a person is supposed to be knowing how to human. But I was such a filmmaker geek for so long that I don't think I was even fully a person. But having had a break from filmmaking and just been around, what you might call the normies, but what is normal? It's just a collection of weird people who are different in their own way and belong to their own group or whatever. But it's just been an interesting time away. But watching this movie kind of reawoken that hunger and that craving in me. I mean, it's been something that's sort of been building up this year. You can see with my whack ads that I'm trying to get back to doing something creative and fun, but also just doing it for nothing. Literally, these are no budget little things that I'm doing. But watching the movie again, I just now I want to do that. I'm like, that's all I've been asking for. What Shang-Chi did and what this movie did, I just felt like, really artful filmmaking. Like, if you're gonna do superheroes, you might as well make it look as amazing as you can and try to tell some kind of moral tale. This movie has themes about duty and love, and who is your true responsibility to at the end of the day. And I think that's it. That's what these movies are missing. It's not a Even though I love Thor Ragnarok, superheroes exist for a specific reason, to teach morals to young people and to sort of validate morals to the older person who's already figured out exactly what morals they feel are right and wrong. And this movie represents that completely, because it's about these people who don't age, and across time their morals and values are tested. And when it comes to the big test, it's about, okay, who exactly are you? Who exactly are you? And I love it. I love it. It's just the fact that it's such a Marvel movie, but the good stuff is woven in so smoothly that it's both a Marvel movie and a great movie at the same time. So it's just the Marvelness does kind of hamper it down a little bit, because it kind of takes away from how good the movie actually is, because I feel the movie is a little too hyper cut. I don't know whose call that was necessarily, but I do feel like the movie was cut a little too tightly. I would have enjoyed the movie being allowed to breathe a little more and really absorb where we are in time and all of that stuff, and have a little more time with each actor, because I just thought everyone knocked it out of the park on this one. Really, really fantastic movie. Great job to the director and cast and crew. That's my gut reaction, my spoiler-free gut reaction for the movie, because I think you should totally check it out. If you are, even if you're not even interested in superheroes, because this movie does not play like a superhero film, if you're kind of feeling that overwhelming sense that we've had too many people in tights and colorful outfits, or here's some more tights and colorful outfits, but because it has such a specific idea about this ancient race and this ancient mission that's both sort of noble and also terrifying. I think they do a lot of great things to balance. This feels like a healthy balance between Zack Snyder's Justice League and Infinity War. Like, if you could find that kind of nice, perfect tone to make things a little more serious, but also a little more deep, in the correct type of way, I think this movie really succeeds at that. And then, of course, the Marvelness, the entertainment value is there. Again, haven't read the comics, so is the accuracy of the races important to me? No, no. You know what I mean? I don't care that, you can have your superheroes in any color. The point of the superhero is the story. And even if it's translated once we get to film, that it's called the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This is a different world with different rules, much like the Ultimate Comics verse, which had a completely different take on the very same characters for the very same reason, to adapt to the current generation, which grew up with these values already, as opposed to learning about them. Like, that's the difference between what came out 50, 60, 80 years ago and now, is that now we've had generations of people grow up with those things and grow up with those values and have a shift in how they do things, even if it's small, even if it takes time. And what does the modern person look like, who tries not to be a bully, but we still have bullies where nerdism is accepted, and no longer are there so many Peter Parkers out there, so many lost nerds, because now being a nerd is kind of cool, it's kind of okay. Society changes, and with that, every interpretation of everything will change. So you can never lock down that perfect thing, unless there is someone who happens to be lucky and happens to have that perfect idea. But you're never gonna get that. It's so much harder to get that, as opposed to getting someone who does have a genuinely beautiful vision for what they want to do, I think, Marvel with Eternals, I feel like there is this, you can see the hunger to make a genuinely great film while still servicing their business needs, while still servicing the model of that this is Marvel. These are comic book characters, but how can we still be elevated in how we try to approach telling these stories so that the audience doesn't feel like they're just getting a McDonald's meal, to keep that brand high. And I think with what DC's been doing with Joker and even releasing the Snyder Cut is leveling up that playing field. Like, yes, DC's going through a rough patch right now with its, or has been going through a rough patch with its movies. But what I consider Marvel Wave 1, everything from Blade to Spider Man 3, or really Blade to Amazing Spider Man 2, I'd say that whole run of movies, which I would include the X-Men films, I would call that Wave 1 of Marvel. And in that Wave 1, Marvel had lots of hits and misses. They did not, they understood the voice they were trying to go for. Actually, that's always been consistent. But exactly how the movie should be made, what the emotional angle of the character is, all of that was so rough around the edges. People just didn't know how to make a comic book movie yet. Like how, and the people who did it right were so few and far between. Like literally, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy got it the best right, and below that Blade, and then below that X-Men. Definitely the first two X-Men films and X-Men Days of Future Past, I think, are the best representations we will get from the Fox universe. And Logan. Well, no, actually, in terms of X-Men films, but the absolute best actual X-Men films were the Deadpool films. Deadpool films. Films? Films. What's a films? That, though, the Deadpool films are actual Marvel. You know what I mean? It's like, if we go from Spider-Man to Deadpool, everything in between is the struggle to make one of those two types of Marvel movies that's true to the comic book spirit, but also has a commercial sense of humor. And the Deadpool is 100% it. You know what I mean? So I would hope that Marvel goes more the Deadpool route with everything, to both to please the comic book fans, but also because that is, now that we have a base, like I said, going back to my Silver Surfer review, having a Marvel base from these MCUs gives me a language and a conduit to actually appreciate what they're unleashing now. And that's really what their real plan was this whole time. Like, we got to start off with these relatable characters that the general audience kind of knows or has heard of. You got to start off with the most known, most popular, most related. And you have to create this entire encyclopedia for the general audience to go, oh, that's what's happening in this weird ass movie with all these strange characters. So it's fantastic to see the plan unfold like this. Like I said, with Shang-Chi, I was very happy with a great chunk of that movie, but I did not feel comfortable reviewing it because I was just going to say what everyone else said. But things like the meeting of the parents in that movie was my favorite scene. But it was also a scene about two characters with two different points of view, and the interchange of those points of view were the thematic bedding that made the whole movie so important. I think it fell apart in the last 30 minutes, though it did have a sky bison, even though it did have a sky dragon that was kind of a waterbender, like freaking goddamn Avatar: The Last Airbender. I finally watched you, and now you're showing up everywhere in my life. But anyway, like, I appreciate that Eternals takes the next step from Shang-Chi and not only delivers the entertainment, delivers the beautiful stuff, has the meaning, but what I appreciate most is that internal character struggle that exists from beginning to end, where these characters, although they're saying a lot of plotty stuff, and it kind of feels like a mix of Infinity War and Game of Thrones, the Game of Thronesness aspect of it really shines, and it becomes a nice foundation for which all the entertainment has its genuine value. So when there's consequences by the end of this movie, so many consequences throughout this movie, it matters and it hits and it feels natural. It doesn't feel too overplayed. I think a lot of movies get either the sacrifice or the character death. They play up the cheese a little too much, and this movie was like shockingly straightforward with a lot of stuff, so that its straightforwardness was kind of the way that it managed to come out with the great visuals, but also these serious stories at the same time, because these characters were so pure in who they were. Something that I heard recently in Beavis and Butthead, that someone talking about that movie, how Beavis and Butthead are so pure rockheads, metalheads, silly, stupid dudes that they'll only ever keep being themselves no matter where they go. And essentially, that's what I appreciate about this movie, is when you find those characters who have these pure qualities, and those qualities are being tested throughout the whole movie. I think there's two types of stories, and I know a lot of people will talk about one of them and say that one's the important one, that a character story is a character who changes. Now, that's one type of character story, just one. There's tons of ways to tell stories, but the other one is if the character doesn't change, how is that value that character has tested throughout the movie? And Blade is one of those pure characters where his value is killing vampires and just being the ultimate badass hunter guy, and nothing else is there's no room for anything else. He has this life set mission, and he's just going to do that. And in the movie, he doesn't have the leaping change of, oh, now I will, Guillermo del Toro says this about the end of Blade 2. The Blade 2 doesn't end with Blade going, oh, now I love vampires and my life has changed and wow. And like, no. He is a character who has a base quality to him, and he's never going to leave that base. That's how he is. That's how he has designed himself to be. And the Eternals are like Blade. They're committed to their values, but also they have this whole family element that's really nice too. So again, not knowing much about the comic, but I really appreciated what the movie did with everyone. I think from a nerdy perspective, it's great, and just in terms of themes, values, production value. But I just really love the handling of it. Again, I just think the only real flaw with the movie is it was too short. It needed to have a little time to breathe and spend a little more time with the characters and let the camera linger a little bit here and there. But as a visual experience, as a storytelling experience, and as a movie that has some level of depth and challenges its characters a bit without going too far for the length of time that we have with these guys, because there's so many characters, there's so many Eternals, we only can focus really on a couple and see their emotional struggle. But that becomes the window to everyone else's emotional struggle, and the handling of that is so well done. Hats off to the director, Miss Chloe. Good job. But also everyone else, obviously. The whole cast and crew performed a really, really nice feat with this movie. And I appreciate so much of that thoughtful work, what we call film theory, being applied to this movie. Because it is a mass audience movie, and the masses do need a little bit of protein. They need a little healthy shit in their meal if they're going to be consuming this. And I think it's good. It's good to have that. It's really good to have that. So thank you, team. Right on MCU. You did it again. Had a great time. Go check out Eternals. TheSalawag likes it. Oh my god, he's still talking. Son of a bitch.